My name is Aurora Hayes, and I'm 30 years old. The scent of linseed oil and turpentine still brings me back to that moment, a moment when my art teacher, Mr. Davis, looked straight into my eyes and declared, "Some students simply have no artistic talent." His words were a cold, deliberate knife twist in the chest of my 16-year-old self, a self who lived and breathed for the canvas. He thought he was crushing my dreams. What he didn't know was that, years later, that very same art, born from that very same pain, would speak for itself in a way he could never have imagined. That a single painting, dismissed by him as worthless, would one day be the centerpiece of a story that ended his career and launched mine. Before I dive into the incredible, terrifying, and ultimately triumphant details of that battle, I want to take a moment to say hello to all of you. If you're watching for the first time, thank you for stopping by. Please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of my stories about finding your voice, standing your ground, and reclaiming your power. And for my incredible community of returning subscribers, welcome back. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from today. It always means so much to me to connect with you all. Now, let's go back to that pivotal moment, the day my quiet acceptance was shattered by an unexpected and, frankly, earth-shattering intervention. My life today is a testament to resilience, a vibrant contrast to the monochromatic existence I once led. I'm a lead architect at a boutique firm specializing in sustainable urban spaces. My days are a whirlwind of creative problem-solving and meticulous detail. One day might find me in a hard hat on a construction site, overseeing the installation of a green roof. The next, I'm hunched over my drafting table, sketching out the initial concepts for a community park, or presenting complex blueprints to a panel of skeptical city planners. My work is demanding, requiring not just technical skill, but also a deep understanding of human connection to space. I thrive on the challenge, on seeing abstract ideas materialize into tangible, living structures. It's a career I built from the ground up, fueled by a fierce independence forged in the fires of my youth. My home is a modern loft apartment in the heart of the city's burgeoning arts district. Sunlight streams through expansive windows, illuminating my collection of abstract art and the dozens of potted plants that transform my space into an indoor jungle. My financial situation is stable, a stark contrast to my past anxieties. I've built a comfortable life for myself, one where I no longer worry about every bill or every unexpected expense. In my free time, I find solace in urban gardening, tending to a small plot in a community garden on the rooftop of my building, coaxing life from the soil amidst the concrete jungle. I also love hiking the trails just outside the city, losing myself in the rhythm of my own breath and the vastness of nature. My friendships are a small, tight-knit circle of kindred spirits from college and work. They know me as the confident, focused architect with a dry wit and an unshakable sense of integrity. There are no romantic entanglements in my life right now, a conscious choice to prioritize my career and my well-being after years of putting others first. Every morning, I wake before dawn, run through the quiet city streets as the sky shifts from indigo to rose, then return home to my sun-drenched sanctuary, ready to face the day on my own terms. My life is a testament to the fact that you can truly build your own destiny, brick by painstaking brick. To truly grasp the magnitude of the storm that erupted over my expulsion, you need to understand the family I grew up in. My parents, Arthur and Vance, were not just lawyers, they were titans in their respective fields. My father, Arthur, was a senior partner at Vance and Associates, a law firm whose name adorned skyscrapers and represented Fortune 500 companies. My mother was a brilliant corporate litigator, known for her razor-sharp intellect and an unshakable composure that could disarm the most aggressive opponents. Our home was less a haven of warmth and more a meticulously managed professional enterprise. Emotions were inefficient. Discussions were debates, complete with opening statements and closing arguments. They were respectable, influential, and utterly detached from the messy realities of human feeling. Their expectations for me and my older brother, Leo, were not spoken as desires but as mandates. Excellence was not an option, it was the baseline. Leo, 3 years my senior, was the golden child. He had inherited my father's sharp mind and my mother's effortless charm. He glided through school with high grades, excelled in debate, and effortlessly networked with the right people. For him, the path to law school, to joining the family firm, was a given, an easy transition. He rarely faced the same intense pressure I did, perhaps because he fit so seamlessly into the mold our parents had created. I, on the other hand, was always the anomaly. I was drawn to art, to literature, to the chaotic beauty of the urban landscape. I saw the world in shades of possibility, while they saw it in black and white legal precedents. Family dinners were less about shared meals and more about performance reviews. My father would inquire about my academic progress with the detached air of a CEO reviewing quarterly reports. "How are your AP calculus scores trending? Are you on track for an A?" My mother would dissect my extracurricular activities, analyzing them for strategic advantage. "Your volunteer hours at the hospital are commendable, but have you considered a leadership position in a more prestigious organization? That looks better on a college application." My quiet achievements, like winning a regional poetry contest or having my artwork selected for a local gallery exhibit, were met with a polite, almost bewildered, "That's nice, dear. Have you decided on your pre-law courses yet?" It felt like I was a project, an investment they were meticulously managing to yield a specific return, a spot in an Ivy League university, followed by law school, and eventually a partnership in the firm. I wasn't seen for who I was, but for who I was supposed to become. I remember one particular formal family dinner when I was about 8 years old. I had just won first place in a citywide art competition for a watercolor painting of our old family dog. I was bursting with pride, clutching the framed certificate. At the dinner table, I hesitantly brought it up. My father nodded. "That's very expressive," my mother added. "You have a lovely hand for detail. Perhaps you could apply that to drafting legal briefs someday. Have you considered joining the math club? Logic is the foundation of all disciplines." The conversation quickly shifted to Leo's perfect score on a national math test. My small victory, my creative passion, was instantly minimized, redirected, subsumed into their grand plan for my future. I learned then that my artistic endeavors were tolerated, but never truly valued. Another time, when I was 12, my parents decided I needed to be well-rounded and insisted I join the junior varsity tennis team. I was terrible. My hand-eye coordination was non-existent, and I dreaded every practice. I tried to explain that I just didn't enjoy it, that I preferred reading or painting. My father, with his usual calm authority, simply said, "Success is not always about enjoyment. Sometimes it is about discipline and overcoming challenges." We've already paid for the private coach. So I continued to hit balls into the net, feeling like a perpetual failure, pushed into a mold that didn't fit. When it came time to select my elective courses for high school, I desperately wanted to take advanced art, creative writing, and drama. I even drafted a small presentation for my parents, complete with arguments about the importance of a well-rounded education. They listened patiently, their faces impassive. When I finished, my mother neatly summarized, "While creative pursuits have their place, your primary focus must be on core academic subjects that will prepare you for a rigorous university curriculum. We've already enrolled you in AP Chemistry and Advanced Placement Calculus. Those are non-negotiable." I felt unheard, unseen, my desires dismissed as frivolous distractions from the serious business of becoming the person they wanted me to be. Perhaps the most defining memory of my early high school years involved an incident during sophomore year. A shy, quiet girl in my English class was being relentlessly bullied by a group of older students. I saw them corner her in the hallway, mocking her clothes, pushing her books to the floor. Without thinking, I stepped in. I wasn't brave, I was just angry. I told them to leave her alone. They turned on me, their taunts now directed at the artistic freak. I ended up in detention, not because I started the fight, but because I was involved in a disruption. When my parents came to pick me up, my father's face was stern. "We understand your intentions may have been noble, but you must learn to choose your battles wisely. Getting involved in schoolyard disputes does nothing for your academic record, and it certainly won't help your college applications. Focus on your studies." It was a cold, hard lesson in pragmatism. They taught me to keep my head down, to avoid conflict, to prioritize my own success above all else. But it chafed against my burgeoning sense of justice, a quiet rebellion that simmered beneath my quiet exterior. I retreated further into my own world, finding solace in my art and in the pages of books, becoming highly independent and self-reliant, often at the cost of feeling truly connected to my own family. The incident that ultimately led to my expulsion was a complex web of Principal Martinez's negligence and my unfortunate presence at the wrong place and time. High was an elite institution, known for its pristine reputation and its impressive college matriculation rates. Principal Martinez, a man in his late 40s with a perpetually polished smile and an uncanny ability to remember every parent's name, was the public face of that perfection. He was charismatic, but beneath the veneer, he was ruthlessly authoritarian, obsessed with control, and above all, the school's image. His zero-tolerance policy was touted as the cornerstone of school discipline, a rigid, unyielding shield against any perceived blemish. The problem began with the outdated security system in the advanced chemistry lab. It was a known issue. Ms., the chemistry teacher, had put in multiple maintenance requests over the past year, complaining about a faulty lock on the chemical storage cabinet and a motion sensor that frequently malfunctioned. I knew this because I overheard her talking to other teachers in the lounge, her voice frustrated. Principal Martinez, however, had a habit of cutting corners when it came to expenses that didn't directly contribute to the school's shiny, public image. He had authorized a cheap, temporary fix for the lock, opting to defer a full security upgrade for the entire science wing until the next fiscal year. This was his fatal mistake. My involvement began innocently enough. I was staying late one Tuesday afternoon, working on a complex sculpture project for my advanced art class. My art classroom was just down the hall from the chemistry lab, and it was the only one that stayed open past regular school hours. I often lost track of time when I was creating. That particular evening, around 6:30 p.m., I needed a specific type of wire that I'd left in my locker. The hallways were mostly deserted. As I walked past the chemistry lab, I noticed the door was ajar. A faint, acrid smell like burnt plastic drifted out. My first thought was that Ms. had forgotten to lock up something. I pushed the door open to peek inside, intending to just close it properly. What I saw shocked me. One of the chemical storage cabinets was open, and a small, smoldering pile of plastic shards lay on the floor near a lab bench, emitting that strange smell. Clearly, someone had been experimenting or vandalizing. It was definitely not a normal chemistry class mess. My immediate reaction was concern. This was dangerous. I scanned the room, saw no one, and then, without thinking, pulled out my phone and quickly snapped a photo of the open cabinet and the strange residue on the floor. I sent it to the anonymous tip line the school had with a quick note. "Chemistry lab door open, weird smell, something burned in here. Looks like vandalism or unauthorized use." I then closed the lab door, making sure it clicked shut, and continued on to my locker. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing, helping to keep our school safe. It never occurred to me that I was walking into a meticulously laid trap. The next morning, I was called to Principal Martinez's office. His demeanor was strangely formal. He offered me a seat, his smile tight, his eyes unusually cold. He began, his voice smooth as silk. "We received an anonymous tip about the chemistry lab yesterday evening, and we have security footage showing you entering and exiting the lab around 6:35 p.m. My heart started to pound. "Yes, Mr. Martinez," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I saw the door open and I noticed a strange smell. I thought I should report it." He nodded slowly. "And did you, perhaps, enter the lab yourself, perhaps to investigate?" I just glanced inside to see what it was, and I saw the burnt plastic, I explained. I closed the door and reported it. I see, he said, tapping a pen against his desk. Because, you see, Ms. reported a small quantity of a very specific, highly regulated chemical, a corrosive agent, missing from that very cabinet this morning. And we found traces of that chemical near the smoldering plastic you reported. It appears someone used it to melt through a plastic container. My stomach dropped. But it wasn't me. I just saw it. We also have reports from Ms. about your recent struggles in chemistry class, he continued, ignoring my protest. Perhaps you were trying a forbidden experiment, or perhaps you were angry about your grade. I felt a wave of nausea. No, that's absurd. My grade is not good, but I would never. He interrupted, his voice hardening. High has a zero-tolerance policy for vandalism, for theft of school property, and for unauthorized access to secured areas, especially chemical labs. Given your presence, your reported observation, and the missing chemical, the evidence is quite conclusive. Your actions have compromised the integrity and safety of this institution. He leaned back, his gaze unwavering. I'm afraid your story doesn't align with the facts. Effective immediately, you are expelled from High. He handed me a crisp white letter. The words swam before my eyes: gross misconduct, violation of school policy, immediate expulsion. My breath caught in my throat. This couldn't be happening. My future, everything I had worked for, shattered in a single calm sentence. But I saw someone else, I stammered, desperation making my voice tremble. I didn't do it. Someone else must have been there before me. He simply shook his head. We have no other evidence of anyone else in that area at that time. Good day. He stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. I walked out of his office in a daze, the heavy door clicking shut behind me, sealing my fate. The coldness of the hallway seemed to mirror the emptiness in my chest. Other students stared, their whispers following me down the hall as I clutched the expulsion letter like a death sentence. The phone call home was perhaps the hardest part. My mother answered, her voice brisk. What's wrong? You sound upset. I choked out the words, the shame and fear making them stick in my throat. Mom, I've been expelled. There was a beat of silence, a terrifying, heavy silence. Then my father's voice, calm and controlled, came through on the extension. Expelled? On what grounds? I explained, my voice cracking, the fabricated story Martinez had woven. When I finished, my mother's voice was icy calm. This is preposterous. Arthur, tell me this is preposterous. My father's tone was one of suppressed fury. We'll handle this. We'll get to the bottom of it. Just come home. There was no comfort in their words, no embrace, just a promise of legal action. The hours and days that followed were a blur of numb shock. I felt like a pariah, my academic future ripped away. I barely ate, couldn't sleep, my mind replaying Martinez's calm, damning voice. My friend Maya, the only person I truly connected with came over, her eyes wide with disbelief. I don't understand, she said, clutching my hand. You would never do something like that. Everyone knows how careful you are. How could he just believe a lie? Her confusion was a small comfort, but it didn't change the reality. I tried to explain what I saw, what I felt, but it all sounded so weak against Martinez's carefully constructed narrative. My parents, true to their word, immediately launched their own internal investigation. Their first step was a phone call to Principal Martinez. I listened from the study as my father, his voice smooth and authoritative, questioned Martinez's findings, his evidence. Martinez, however, was unflappable. He reiterated his points, citing school policy and the conclusive evidence. He even added, Mr. Vance, with all due respect, your daughter has shown a recent decline in her chemistry performance. This may be an unfortunate cry for attention, or perhaps a frustrated act against a subject she finds challenging. The sheer audacity of his lies, twisted to sound so reasonable, made my blood boil. My parents hung up, their frustration palpable. He's hiding something, my mother stated, her voice tight. He's too defensive, and he's clearly trying to deflect. They scheduled a meeting with a high-ranking administrator on the school board, mister, hopping for a more impartial hearing. We sat in a sterile conference room, my parents presenting their meticulously prepared arguments, complete with my own detailed, timeline-stamped account of what I saw. Mr. listened, nodded politely, but ultimately sided with Martinez. "Principal Martinez has an impeccable record," he stated, his voice flat, "and his report is thorough. While we sympathize with your daughter, High upholds a strict disciplinary code. We cannot compromise on safety or academic integrity." He recited the zero-tolerance policy like a mantra. It became horrifyingly clear that the school was more interested in protecting its pristine image and its principal than in uncovering the truth. My innocence wasn't the issue. The school's reputation was. Each failed attempt at resolution was like another brick in the wall of my despair, solidifying the shame, the injustice. I felt utterly helpless, watching my parents, these formidable legal minds, hit brick wall after brick wall. It taught me that sometimes the truth isn't enough when powerful institutions are determined to bury it. But my father, Arthur Vance, was not a man who accepted defeat, especially when it came to injustice, and most especially when it involved his own family. The moment he realized polite appeals and administrative meetings wouldn't work, he made a decision that would shake the very foundations of High. He didn't just call his law firm, he mobilized an entire team. He assigned two of his sharpest junior partners, Ms. and Mr. Davies, to my case, treating it with the same gravity as a multi-million-dollar corporate lawsuit. Their approach was methodical, relentless, and completely detached from emotion. They saw me not as a heartbroken teenager, but as a key witness, a source of facts. I sat through hours of interviews, recounting every detail, every suspicion, every interaction with Principal Martinez. I felt like I was being cross-examined, but this time, the questions were designed to uncover the truth, not to twist it. They asked about Ms., about her complaints, about the school's budget for security, about any rumors I'd heard regarding corners being cut. They interviewed Maya, who, despite her fear, quietly corroborated my account of seeing the open lab door earlier that day. Ms., a formidable woman with piercing blue eyes, even visited the school under the guise of an alumni interest tour, subtly assessing the security protocols, the state of the locks, the general atmosphere. The aha moments came in a slow, steady trickle, building into a powerful torrent of evidence. First, Mr. Davies, using his firm's vast resources, managed to get access to the school's internal maintenance logs. There, buried deep within hundreds of routine requests, were not one, but 3 distinct maintenance requests from Ms., dating back 6 months, explicitly detailing the faulty lock on the chemical storage cabinet and the intermittent failure of the motion sensor in the advanced chemistry lab. Each request had been marked, resolved with temporary fix, or deferred to next budget cycle. This was the first concrete proof that the school, and by extension, Principal Martinez, knew about the security flaw. Then, through discreet interviews with several janitorial staff, conducted off-campus and anonymously, Ms. discovered that Principal Martinez had a reputation for overriding security concerns if they were deemed too expensive or too disruptive to school image. One janitor specifically mentioned seeing Martinez himself replace a broken lock on a storage closet with a flimsy, cheap padlock just weeks before my incident, rather than calling a professional locksmith. But the true smoking gun, the piece of evidence that would blow Martinez's meticulously crafted lie out of the water, came from an unexpected source. My father, leveraging his deep connections within the legal and financial world, managed to obtain a copy of High's internal budget review from the previous fiscal year. Buried within the financial reports was a proposal from the school's external security consultant recommending a full security system overhaul for the science wing, specifically citing vulnerabilities in chemical storage and unauthorized access points. The proposal included a detailed cost breakdown. Beside it, in Principal Martinez's own handwriting, was a note. Decline. Prioritize aesthetic upgrades for main lobby and gymnasium. Too costly. This was it. A direct, undeniable paper trail proving that Martinez had knowingly ignored a critical security warning, prioritizing cosmetic improvements over the safety of the students and school property. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had actively created the conditions for the incident and then thrown me under the bus to cover his tracks. The revelation, my resolve. This wasn't just about my expulsion anymore. It was about exposing the corruption and arrogance at the heart of an institution that prided itself on integrity. The weeks leading up to the school board meeting were a period of intense, focused calm for me. The raw pain and fear had given way to a quiet, burning resolve. My parents' law firm had assembled a formidable dossier, each piece of evidence meticulously organized, cross-referenced, and ready to be presented with devastating precision. My father, Arthur, had decided on a direct, unsparing strategy. We would bypass further appeals to Principal Martinez and take our case directly to the High School Board of Directors in an emergency session. The goal was not simply my reinstatement, but total accountability for Martinez. My role was clear: to be composed, articulate, and unwavering in my truth. I spent hours with Ms., reviewing the evidence, rehearsing my testimony, preparing for every possible question and deflection from Martinez's legal team. She taught me to detach from the emotion, to focus only on the facts, to present my case with the same cold, rational logic my parents applied to their corporate battles. My allies were no longer just my parents. They were their entire, powerful law firm. Maya, my friend, though not directly involved in the legal proceedings, remained a steadfast source of quiet support, sending me encouraging texts and reminding me that she believed me. There was no more crying, no more pleading. There was only determination. I was ready. The evening of the emergency school board meeting was shrouded in a heavy, autumnal rain. The atmosphere in the formal, wood-paneled boardroom was thick with tension. The long, polished mahogany table reflected the dim overhead lights, creating an almost theatrical setting. Seated around it were the 7 members of the high school board, their faces a mixture of solemnity and barely concealed annoyance at being called to an unscheduled meeting. At one end sat Principal Martinez, flanked by his own, considerably less formidable legal counsel. He looked outwardly composed, his usual polished smile in place, though his eyes darted nervously around the room. At the other end of the table sat my parents, Arthur, and their expressions resolute, and myself, dressed in a simple, dark suit, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Principal Martinez was given the floor first. He stood with practiced ease, his voice resonating with authority as he reiterated his initial report. He spoke of his unwavering commitment to student safety, the strict adherence to the zero-tolerance policy, and painted a picture of me as a misguided student who had committed a serious breach of trust. He presented his circumstantial evidence, carefully omitting any mention of the faulty lock or the ignored security reports. His performance was flawless, designed to convey competence and integrity. He finished with a flourish, his gaze sweeping across the board members, seemingly confident in his control of the narrative. Then my father, Arthur Vance, rose. He moved with a quiet power that commanded attention. He didn't raise his voice or engage in dramatics. His presentation was in legal precision. "Members of the board," he began, his voice calm and clear, "we are here tonight not to appeal a disciplinary decision, but to expose a profound failure of leadership and a deliberate cover-up that resulted in my daughter's unjust expulsion." A ripple went through the room. Martinez stiffened. My father began laying out the evidence, piece by meticulous piece. A large screen descended behind the table, and Mr. Davies, my father's junior partner, began projecting documents. First, the series of maintenance requests from Ms. detailing the faulty lock and the malfunctioning motion sensor. Each date, each specific complaint, highlighted in bold red. Martinez shifted in his seat, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. "Principal Martinez," my father asked, his voice devoid of accusation, "can you explain why these critical security concerns were not addressed with permanent solutions?" Martinez stammered. They were minor issues. They were addressed. Addressed with temporary fixes, yes, my father countered, his voice still calm. But not permanently, according to your own financial records. He then projected the security consultant's proposal for a full security overhaul, its detailed recommendations clear. And then the damning memo, Principal Martinez's own handwriting, decline, prioritize aesthetic upgrades for main lobby and gymnasium, too costly. The image filled the screen, undeniable. A gasp went through the room. The board members leaned forward, their faces etched with shock and dawning fury. Principal Martinez, a stern-faced board member, Mrs. No relation to the attorney, interjected, her voice sharp with disbelief. You deliberately ignored a professional security assessment to save money and prioritize cosmetic enhancements. This is unacceptable. Martinez's polished cracked. He tried to speak, but his words caught in his throat. My father continued, presenting sworn affidavits from the janitorial staff detailing Martinez's history of cutting corners on security. He then calmly debunked every single piece of evidence Martinez had used to implicate me, showing how it was either circumstantial, twisted, or outright fabricated. He explained how my anonymous tip was corroborated by security camera footage, showing me briefly entering and leaving the lab before the damage, and how Martinez had purposefully edited the footage shown to exclude earlier timestamps. The air crackled with tension. Martinez's lawyer was pale, whispering frantically to his client. Finally, my father turned to me. Would you like to address the board? I stood, my legs surprisingly steady. My voice, when it came, was clear and unwavering, filled not with anger, but with the quiet power of truth. Members of the board, I saw a security risk and I reported it because I believed it was my responsibility to keep my school safe. I did not vandalize the lab. I did not steal chemicals. Principal Martinez expelled me to cover up his own negligence, to protect his reputation at the expense of my future. I simply ask that my name be cleared and that justice be served. I looked directly at Principal Martinez. His face had gone from confident to pale to a mottled, angry red. He was breathing heavily, his eyes wild with desperation. He lunged forward slightly, as if to protest, but his lawyer put a restraining hand on his arm. The board members, once skeptical, now looked at Martinez with utter disgust. The power had irrevocably shifted. The principal, once the untouchable authority figure, was now just a cornered, exposed man. The board's decision was swift and unanimous. The votes were cast with chilling precision. The board finds that Principal Martinez engaged in gross negligence, deliberately misleading this board, and unjustly expelling a student to cover his own malfeasance, announced the chairwoman, her voice stern. Effective immediately, Ms. Vance's expulsion is rescinded. Her academic record is cleared, and a formal letter of apology will be issued to her and her family. As for Principal Martinez, his employment with high school is terminated, effective immediately. He is also barred from employment in any capacity within this school district. An investigation into potential legal ramifications of his actions will commence. Martinez stood frozen, his jaw slack, his face a ghastly white. His career, his meticulously built reputation, shattered in a single, devastating sentence. It wasn't the triumphant feeling I expected, but a deep, profound sense of justice, a quiet satisfaction that resonated deep in my bones. The burden I had carried for weeks, the crushing weight of shame and injustice, simply lifted, leaving me feeling lighter than air. The immediate fallout was immense and swift. News of Principal Martinez's dismissal spread through high like wildfire. Students whispered in the halls, teachers exchanged shocked glances. An official statement was released by the school board the following day, a carefully worded press release acknowledging administrative changes and a renewed commitment to transparency and student welfare. While it didn't explicitly detail Martinez's malfeasance, the undercurrent was clear. For me, the first tangible consequence was the official letter of apology, crisp and formal, delivered by courier. It acknowledged the unjust nature of my expulsion and formally cleared my record. Returning to school, I was met with a mix of awe and awkwardness from my peers. Some avoided my gaze, others offered hesitant smiles of congratulations. Maya was overjoyed, hugging me tightly. The power dynamics within the school shifted subtly. Students no longer feared Martinez, but a new, quiet respect for justice and for my family's determination settled over the campus. For Principal Martinez, the consequences were devastating and public. His name, once synonymous with excellence, now became a byword for scandal. Local media picked up the story, albeit with carefully worded reports that avoided outright slander. But the implications were clear. He was a man who had tried to save his own skin at the expense of a student's future. His reputation in educational circles was utterly destroyed. He was blacklisted, unable to secure another position in any reputable school district. He attempted to sue the school board for wrongful termination, but my father's firm, still representing me easily crushed his claims, using the very evidence that had sealed his fate in the board meeting. He simply vanished from the public eye. For my parents, the outcome was a quiet triumph, not in a celebratory sense, but in a profound shift in our relationship. There were no effusive congratulations, no emotional displays. Instead, there was a quiet, almost imperceptible nod of respect. My father's eyes, usually so focused on the intricacies of corporate law, now held a glimmer of something deeper when he looked at me, a recognition of my strength, my principles. My mother, too, seemed to see me in a new light, not just as a project to be molded, but as a formidable individual who had stood her ground against a powerful adversary. The battle had forged a new bond between us, one built on mutual respect and a shared understanding of justice. My academic path, initially derailed, was now back on track, but with a crucial difference. The experience changed my perspective on college. I no longer blindly chased Ivy League dreams. I sought out universities that prioritized critical thinking, ethical leadership, and creative expression over pure prestige. I used the expulsion and subsequent fight for justice as the centerpiece of my personal statement, writing about resilience, integrity, and the power of standing up for truth. It was a story that resonated with the admissions committees, leading me to a program that truly nurtured my passion for architecture and design, a path I would never have chosen if I had remained on their predetermined course. Looking back, a decade later, the echoes of that experience still resonate, but they are no longer discordant. They are a harmonious part of the symphony of my life. I am thriving as an architect, designing spaces that are not just beautiful, but also functional, sustainable, and ethically sound. My career is a direct manifestation of the values I fought for in that boardroom: integrity, transparency, and a commitment to building something better. For instance, my current project involves designing a series of affordable, energy-efficient housing units for a struggling neighborhood, a far cry from the opulent, image-driven architecture my father's firm often dealt with. I fight for the best materials, for community input, and for fair labor practices, mirroring the fight for justice I waged for myself. My passion for urban gardening is not just a hobby. It's a quiet rebellion against the cold, manufactured perfection that once defined my world. It's about creating life and beauty in unexpected places, just as I created a new life for myself from the ashes of a shattered dream. My friendships are deeper, more authentic now. I no longer seek external validation, no longer feel the need to conform to anyone's expectations. Sarah and Ben, my two closest friends from college, have been with me through thick and thin. We often spend our weekends hiking or exploring new art exhibits, our conversations flowing easily, punctuated by laughter and genuine understanding. They know the full story of my past, and they admire the strength it took to emerge from it. There's a peaceful stability in my mental health now, a freedom from the constant hum of anxiety and fear that once permeated my existence. The quiet strength I gained from that battle has infused every aspect of my being, allowing me to navigate challenges with resilience and a clear sense of purpose. My loft apartment, filled with the warmth of natural light and the vibrant greenery of my plants, is a sanctuary I built for myself, a tangible representation of my self-made peace. And Principal Martinez, he effectively disappeared from public life. Rumors surface occasionally, a low-level administrative job in a distant state, a quiet, isolated existence. His reputation, once so pristine, remains in tatters. The public fall from grace was complete. I don't harbor bitterness towards him now, only a quiet understanding of the power dynamics at play and the profound lesson he inadvertently taught me. The most profound growth, however, has been in my relationship with my parents. It's no longer the formal, transactional dynamic of my youth. The fight for my expulsion had been a shared crucible, and we emerged from it changed. They saw my unyielding integrity, my refusal to be silenced, and I saw their formidable power wielded for justice, not just profit. We communicate more openly now, sometimes even sharing personal insights. My father, surprisingly, has started asking for my opinion on ethical dilemmas in his own cases, something unimaginable years ago. My mother occasionally sends me articles about sustainable architecture, an unspoken acknowledgement of my chosen path. We still have our moments, but there's a bedrock of mutual respect that wasn't there before. What did I learn from all of it? I learned that truth is a powerful weapon, but only if you have the courage and the resources to wield it. I learned that fear can make good people complicit, but that courage can turn an entire system on its head. I learned that my self-worth was never dictated by a principal's signature on an expulsion letter or by my parents' preordained plans for my life. It was, and always will be, determined by my own actions, my own integrity, and my unwavering commitment to my principles. If I could go back and tell my 16-year-old self, sitting alone in her room, tears silently streaming down her face, I would say this: your truth is your shield. Don't let anyone rewrite your story. This pain is not the end. It is the forge where your true strength will be tempered. And one day, you will build a life so full of purpose and authenticity that their attempts to diminish you will become nothing more than a faint, distant echo. Healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from transforming it into a foundation for an even stronger future. The impact of my story has subtly rippled outwards. Maya, my steadfast friend, often tells me how my courage inspired her to speak up more in her own life. In my professional sphere, the quiet integrity with which I approach my work resonates with clients who value more than just blueprints. Sometimes, I volunteer a few hours a month at a local nonprofit that offers legal aid to students facing unfair disciplinary actions. It's a small way to pay forward the incredible support I received, to remind others that they too can fight back, that their voice matters. Thank you for listening to my story tonight. It's a testament to the fact that even when the world tries to expel you, you have the power to write your own glorious comeback. If you've ever been unfairly accused or had to fight for your truth, please share your experience in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can celebrate our resilience and empower each other. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with anyone who needs a reminder that courage can change everything. Remember, your story is yours alone to write, and it can be a masterpiece.